Hi, everybody. For those of you who are already on the call, we're going to wait until 12:01 to make sure we get started when most people have joined. All right. I don't think we have everybody who signed up yet, but hopefully during just the welcome, we will get everybody on the line. So welcome everybody to this Astromaterials Data Repository webinar. My name is Kirstin Nehnert. I am the lead investigator on the Astromaterials Data System Development, which is a NASA-funded project. Our goal today is to just give you a very brief overview of the Astromaterials data system, but mainly focus on the component of the Astromaterials data system, which is the data repository, or as we short call it, the AstroRepo. We will provide you with an overview of its functions, and the background actually for the relevance of a data repository for astromaterials data in the time of open and fair data and reproducible science. And we will end up with a brief demo of how you can submit your data to the Astromaterial repository. We invite you during the whole presentations, these three components, to ask questions. There are two options. You can either use the chat or you can put questions into the question component of your of the GoToMeeting panel. We will stop after the first two components of the presentation and try to answer any questions that come in. So don't wait with your questions until you forgot it. Just put it in and we will discuss, and we will stay online as long as there are questions and we can have discussions. We also invite you to provide suggestions and so on. So the three people here online, that is me as the project director, and then Jennifer Mays, who is data and project manager for the Astromaterials data system, will provide the overview of the data repository and the overall data system. And Lucy Profita is she is the data curator for the EarthChem library, will show you how to submit your data to the Astromaterial repository. Okay, Jen, next one. So just as a background, some of you may actually have used the EarthChem library already or any of the other EarthChem data systems. So the Astromaterial data system is being developed and in part operated already by the Geoinformatics research group at the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. We have been building and operating data systems for the science community for over 20 years and have specific expertise in sample-based data and lab analytical data such as geochemistry, petrology, and geochronology. And we have listed here a number of the data systems that we currently operate and develop. The iSamples, for example, is a new project that's under development. We have specifically over the years worked with funders and publishers to ensure that the data we curate, that we archive, are properly documented, are reusable and interoperable. And in the last row here, you see the Coalition for Publishing Data in the Earth and Space Sciences is an effort that originated in this Lamont Geoinformatics research group, a collaboration between publishers and data repositories to establish common practices in dealing with data and publications, which, as you will see during the presentation, is an important aspect of the Astromaterials Data Repository. Okay, next one. So with that, actually, I'm finishing up my part of this this webinar and handing over to Jennifer Mays to give you the overview of the Astromaterials data system.
Thanks, Kirsten. I just want to go over briefly the Astromaterials data system to give you some background on the Astromat. Astromaterials data system stores, curates, and provides access to laboratory data acquired on samples curated at the Johnson Space Center. It will contain data from past, present, and future studies. If you're aware of MoonDB, this is Astromaterials data system contains all of the data from MoonDB, and it will contain all of the Astromaterials collections from the other JSC collections. There are over 250,000 samples at JSC's Astromaterials collections, including the lunar materials and meteorites and several other different types of astromaterial samples. Over 1,500 samples are allocated to over 350 scientists worldwide every year, so it's a huge amount of data coming in. One of the problems with some of this sample data is that it's dispersed across decades of scientific publications and conference abstracts. It's often not in readily usable format, and a huge proportion of data have never been published. NASA's focus on open data, they had several workshops and published studies that have come out in the past few years about the importance of cross-disciplinary science data sharing. The Science Mission Directorate said that research scientists must facilitate greater discoverability of like data holdings in various archives. And the SMD should engage with the science community to develop a metadata description that would cross science. So one of the recommendations that emerged from the workshop was for researchers to cite not only publications in their proposals and reports, but also relevant data sets and availability or accessibility of research models. Not only funding agencies, but publishers have recently talked about how important it is for researchers to share their data. This is from Nature back in January of 2019. They talked about how they will require that authors of papers in earth sciences make supported data available to others through the community's repositories where available. This is all part of the FAIR Data Initiative, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data. And in fact, Astromat right now and AstroRepo we're in the process of getting it approved to be a published and trusted data repository. So if you go to the Nature website, you'll see Astromaterials Data Repository as a trusted repository. Okay, so let me check to see if there are any questions. I don't see any right now. Okay, I'll give you a brief overview now of the Astromaterials Data Repository, AstroRepo. AstroRepo is part of the Astromat data storage. New and unpublished data is contributed by users. The metadata catalog sits alongside the files and are available for file download. This sits alongside Astromat Synthesis, which is the data and metadata catalog, AstroDB, that contains published data that is curator entered. The benefits for you, what's in it for you? Why should you deposit your materials with AstroRepo? You can easily generate and comply with your NASA data management plan. Open data has shown to increase citations of publications, always a good thing. Publishers will require deposition of data, preferably in domain-specific repositories. And it also ensures long-term impact of your data by making them fair. The scope of AstroRepo, talk a little bit about the different types of materials that we accept. We welcome contributions from a broad range of extraterrestrial data for samples of lunar rocks, meteorites, minerals, melt and flute inclusions, including but not unlimited to compositional data, geochemical synthesis data sets, geochronological data, petrographic descriptions of samples, mineralogical and spectrographic data. And we're also working on trying to include sample images and experimental data. We're reviewing the capabilities of the system, and we're looking into hopefully being able to include those down the line in like years 3 and 4. Just want to give you a quick look at what AstroRepo looks like online. This is the home page of AstroRepo, where you can submit or search for data. Lucy will be talking about how to submit data. I'll show you what it looks like when you search for data. This is the browse page where it lists all the data sets that are currently available, author, title, date of release, and the DOI. So this is where your data set would show up if you submitted with AstroRepo. And this is an example of what a data DOI landing page would look like. So it has the title, authors, and all the other metadata, along with a link to actually download the data. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lucy, who's going to talk about how to submit your data to AstroRepo.
Thanks, Jen. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay.
And I just wanted to check. I don't see any questions right now.
Oh, so didn't see any. Okay, so when you go to the astromat.org website and hit submit data, you will be redirected to the overview of the repository, which contains some of the information that Jen has already gone over, and some very useful information to help you get through the submission. One of those is the submission guidelines page. I have it open over here. That goes through what type of file formats are acceptable. Something we really want to stress is that if you have tabular data, it must be in CSV, Excel, or text format. We strongly recommend that you use our data templates, and I'm going to show you an example shortly, but that's not necessary. We do recommend that you enrich your submission with as much metadata as possible. And we strongly advise that you read through this page and describe your data set thoroughly. There are also important information here about the release date. You can embargo your data set if it's under review and you don't want your data to become public. You can embargo it for up to 2 years. And you can also choose what type of license you are going to have. and you can link it to your awards numbers for either NASA or NSF, and you can add related identifiers, such as multiple meteorite numbers or Apollo sample numbers from GSD. Let's go through an actual example of how to submit. I made a little template. I filled it out as a demo, and I gave the submission a title, a short abstract that describes the data set, the authors, institution, contact information, and I chose a release date. And then I said what the manuscript that will contain the data would be and its status, because this would not be something already published. I would just put in prep or under review or accepted. The next tab contains sample information. It gives you a little bit of information about how the sample was collected. You can add your own information depending on what pertains to your specific sample. The next tab contains the analytical data itself. You would have the same sample name as you did in the previous tab. This is an example with mineral data where you have different grain IDs and you say where the spot location is. And for this example, I chose two different parameters that were analyzed with two different instruments. So I assigned different method codes and their units. And these method codes correspond to these techniques. So this is copied from the previous tab over here. Same parameters, same method codes, correspond to the same technique and instrument. So now that we've filled out this template, we can go to the submit page and hit submit data. You'll be prompted to log in. You can either use the GeoPass if you have one, or ORCID. We recommend that you use your ORCID. And you can sign in and be redirected to your submission form. So your data set title is going to be the same as you've chosen the file. So mine was demo submission. My data set, oh, and my related funding information. In case you have an award number, you can add your award number here. This is mine. And I said that my data set would be of type data set. If you have previously submitted to EarthChem Library, your name would be in this drop-down list. But if you are not, you would go ahead and add an author. I'm just going to add myself here. And my co-author is going to be Jennifer. And I also had Kirsten. So I'm going to make sure that everything corresponds to what I have in the file. And then my abstract was descriptive of the data set for my sample, and I would pick what type of data it is. In this case, it's chemistry. And I would say that I have hydroclase data and pyroxene, or whatever keywords are relevant to you. And you'd put in your related publication and the DOI if you have one. If not, you can come back and update this information even after the submission will be publicly available. In this case, I had samples from Apollo 16, so I can go ahead and add this. This is going to end up as a link to the mission itself. And you can put in parent samples. So in my case, it was for sample 60635. I'm going to go ahead and add that here. And I will upload my file, which is in an Excel format, which is accepted. The file limitations are 20 megabytes per file, and you can upload up to 20 files. I want to make sure that my release date is when I want it. In this case, I'll choose the maximum period, which is 2 years from today's date. And I will choose this license from the different options. And I have the option to save my submission to come back to it, or if I'm ready, I can submit it. Once you submit it, you get a confirmation that all of your information is input the way that you put it in. And we would highly recommend that you complete our feedback questionnaire, which of course right now doesn't want to show up, but you will also get a confirmation that may end up in your spam. Hopefully it doesn't. That you have submitted, and from there you can access the feedback. And if you would like to receive a mousepad from Astromat, you can go ahead and put your email at the end of this feedback, and we'll get back to you. All right, I feel like I really rushed through that, so I would like to open it up, well, to a little review first, and then we can go back to questions. So just as an overall summary for the Astromat repository, you can publish your data and archive it and receive a DOI for your data, which is going to be useful both for citing your data set in publications or with funders and data management plans. Your data set will be curated, so you will have quality control for the metadata that you put in. On the landing pages, you will have external links to your related publications, to samples, to the funding awards. And you can have this embargo period for up to 2 years of your data set and choose your own license. So if there are questions, I see one.
Okay,
right
it looks
here.
like, yeah, we have one question right now. Can magnetic data be added to this database? For example, rock magnetic data. I'll let you handle that, Lucy.
I think as of now, we are not the repository that handles magnetic data, but that's still being discussed. Kirsten,
Yeah,
would you
let
like
me
to...
add to that. There is currently no repository for it, so we would be open to accept these data, but would try to align the metadata documentation with what the MAGIC data system for PaleoMag data currently requires. I'm not sure they would be open, if MAGIC would be open to accept Lunar sample PaleoMag. We have one collaboration emerging with API, who has a pending proposal to work on a PaleoMag or magnetics database for lunar samples. So as I haven't heard about it, I don't want to necessarily reveal any identity here, but it's something that is being discussed.
Okay, it looks like there's a question about the license. Is that something that you can address, Lucy?
Yes, so the default is going to be the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0, but there are older versions of the Creative Commons as well. So you can choose which type of Creative Commons license you'll have, but it's all non-commercial.
Okay, great. Okay, we have another question. Can Astromat accept crystal size distribution data?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think crystal sizes are absolutely acceptable and would fall within the scope.
Okay, great. Okay. There's a question about Astromat and linkages between a point on an image and a chemical analysis on that point. Yes, that's a very common and common question. Kirsten, you want to talk about what the plans are?
I can talk about that. It is part of the scope of the Astromaterial data system to build the capability of linking in situ analytical data to images, to basically sample maps. But it is part of the later, it's supposed to happen in the later years, starting in year 3, those developments. We have started a dialogue with the Planetary Data Systems node on imaging, who so far have been archiving sample images, and we need to figure out if the images can stay at the Astromaterial data system, where I think they should stay and be submitted as part of a data set that has in situ measurements. We consider that especially relevant for the meteorite samples, but obviously for others as well. So it is a capability that will come, but as we are just a year into the development of the Astromaterial data system, it is not yet there. It would absolutely be fine to submit the images at this point, and basically just have labels on the images for data points. We actually do have data sets dating back into the 70s that John Delano submitted with the large maps of glasses that link with small numbers next to the glass droplets that actually show which analysis belongs to which little sample. But it's not a dynamically linked entity yet, and that will come. But if there is a need to actually archive these sample maps and the related data, we would definitely take that.
Okay, thank you. There was a further question about how to upload spectral data sets. Just, do you add another tab in Excel, or how do you deal with that data? But I think you just answered that question as well.
It is.
I can go over that briefly too.
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you have the raw data with the wavelength and the intensity, there are multiple ways to go about it. So let's say you have the chemistry in one tab and you would add another tab, or you could have a completely different file. It's up to you. Some people do it all in the same one, where you would just say something like intensity here. For some reason, it wanted to go with symbols. And then this would be different method. And we have these vocabulary lists at the end. So spectroscopy would be IRSP. We would just go in here and say that method number 3 for intensity would be IRSP. Either you do it this way, or you have another tab if you want to keep it neat and tidy. Good.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see any further questions. If there are any, please go ahead and put them in the, oh, let's see. Oh, someone just asking, did you say that you will take images in the future? Yes, that is something that we're working on for future years.
And as of now, we do accept PDFs. So if you would have a map, you could upload it as a PDF format.
That's true. Yes. Thank you.
So just to emphasize, if there are no questions currently left, the slide shows you our contact info@astromet.org. Will get you an answer from Jennifer or from Lucy with pretty quick turnaround if you have any manuscripts you're working on and so on. So as Jennifer said earlier, we are working with AGU, specifically JGR Planet, and with Nature to establish the link between the publications and the data in the repository. But you know, if you have the other journal, sorry, is Geochimica, Cosmochimica, Acta, obviously, and we have made contact with the Geochemical Society about that.
Okay, thanks. We have one other question that just came in. That's an important one, asking, can you update data after submission?
The answer is, as long as it's under embargo, so not publicly available, yes. If the data is publicly available, you will have to create a new version, and we will link it as a new version with its own DOI.
Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. Okay. Okay, it looks like that is all of the questions.
One more thing, Jennifer. You know, there's obviously, we're talking here about new data that is generated right now and published as part of scientific articles. If you know of any senior researchers who still have unpublished data that they would be willing to share, this is also a way to get data out without writing a publication. You could write a publication in one of the data journals, including Nature Scientific Data, or AGU's Earth and Ocean Science, or is it Earth, Ocean, and Planetary Sciences? I'm blanking out on the title right now. But it is a real good way to do what we call data rescue, to make sure that any unpublished data still can be shared with the community. We're currently working on a huge data set with a group at UCLA. It's a data set from John Wasson that will provide a humongous benefit, I think, to still publish this data set after he passed away. So we don't want this to happen to anybody then who would be no longer with us. But if there is somebody you know who has data and may be willing to share that, this would also be the way to make sure the data are archived and accessible. Okay, I think we stuck to our goal of having only a half hour of your time, which I think everybody these days appreciates, with long Zoom calls being part of our life. So thank you again all for attending. And as I said, if any other questions come to your mind after the call is over, we are here to answer them. We have recorded this webinar and will post it so that those who couldn't attend today may watch it at the time they can make it. We will also share the slides, posting a link to the slides on the Astromat website. With that, thanks again, and I hope you all enjoy a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kirsten. Bye-bye.